Well, welcome. So I'm not going to talk too much. For those that know me, I like to get you all involved. But I want to talk about a textbook I'm working on, which will hopefully be done by December, which will be called The Soft Side of Industry 4.0. So I have an unusual background, as you've heard. I've worked in change organizations for much of my earlier professional career, then got into higher education, and got a PhD in leadership, which for those that have PhDs in leadership, it can kind of span in many different directions. I like to focus on the, technical, downside, there we go. I like to focus on the kind of soft side of things, so looking at uniquely human skills. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But with an interest of mine more recently, over the last, I'd say, 5 years, is looking at the merger of what we call our human side and technology. And I think our keynote this morning did a terrific job of stressing the importance, and I just want to give a kudos out to him on the importance of not forgetting that we are ultimately human. But we do need to find a way to work well and play well between the two areas. So I'm going to start first with the foundation. I think most of us know Industry 4.0, have heard of it. Sometimes it's referred to as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And it's the ongoing digital transformation that we're all seeing by leaps and bounds of industries and societies that help to figure out ways that are really advancing our innovation and advancing our way of life through advanced technologies. So terrific things that are really altering and making things a lot more easy for us and are really bringing about changes that are just significant and exciting. One of those in the area that I look heavily on recently is in artificial intelligence, because I think it's made the news for most of us now. And kind of look at some of the research that's been on that. In my former life, I worked for an organization, Pew Charitable Trusts. So we did a lot of research, kind of started way back then. I put some key research quotes here. This was out of their study that they did in 2018. So again, I know it sounds funny, but it's still outdated, right, to where we are today and how fast some of this is moving. But they did a huge study of 879 individuals that came from all different walks of life, from technology pioneers to innovators to developers and business and policy leaders, as well as researchers and academics as well. And they found that AI is an amplifier of human effectiveness, but also has a potential, and I'm sure all of us know some of the downsides, to bring about potential impacts on autonomy, work, and skills. But one of the positives that came out of there, as I said, as long as we continue to be human and act in an innovative way and realize that we are the creators behind all of this, that will only become a positive and not a negative. So I thought it was a really impactful study that kind of showed that. And that's kind of my focus here with you today. And I want to see all of your experiences and what you're doing. I know most of you come from academic, but we may have some industry partners in here as well. So with that said, I do want to define what I'm calling uniquely human skills. So you may hear that as the term soft skills. Sometimes there's a negative connotation with some of these, or human skills. But it's basically the abilities and attributes that are distinctly associated with being human. These skills are typically not easily replicated or replaced by artificial intelligence or other automation and advanced technologies, though they are making efforts in some of this to combine. Uniquely human skills often involve interpersonal, emotional, and cognitive capabilities. I think the 7 R's we heard about this morning demonstrates this. I would put every single one of those in one of these categories. There were 8 distinctive human skills that fall under the categories, and what's funny is to do this, I thought it'd be a fun little exercise. I asked ChatGPT what they were, and then I looked at what they gave, and then I combined it with a variety of other surveys and other key from Forbes and LinkedIn to a variety of other organizations that have put out recent surveys that identify these skills as well. And to my surprise, they did match, though the order was a little different depending on what you read. So we're going to look at what those are today. And then what I'm hoping to get from all of you is a sharing activity. We're going to come around with a mic and go through the 8 human skills to see how you're incorporating that in your classes, your organizations, your programs, whatever it may be, or maybe ideas you have on how to make that better. Because I personally believe that no matter what discipline you come from, we just had a presentation that talked about a merger of business and engineering. I would argue these types of skills don't really fall under any particular discipline. but they really need to be shared across all. And sometimes we don't do that, right? Because we get very bogged down in what I call more of a silo way of thinking. So with that, here they are. So I'm going to walk through them first with you, kind of give you a brief definition of them, and then I want your expertise, what you're doing, and what unique things you can share with each of us. So the first is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, again, our way of understanding our own emotions and how they impact our lives, as well as how we work with others and how that impacts them, being aware of others' emotions, right? So emotional intelligence, or EI, it's sometimes commonly referred to. I would also tie under emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and any variety of other intelligence that fall under, because it is about knowing the person you're working with. I do a lot in relational dynamics, so it is about the relationships, whether it's a personal, professional, or a combination of the two, which is much more common than not. Complex problem solving is the second. Again, how we are able to solve issues that emerge in a fast and innovative way. Communication, I think this one goes without saying, but communication is much more broad these days, right? It isn't just us communicating here in person. We really have to, especially after coming out of the pandemic, figure out ways to be more of a hybrid approach of online and in person. And again, different ways of how we do that. Ethical reasoning. This is, again, coming, and I know it sounds very business department-ish, but it really is becoming something that is being considered as we think about how we can use the amplification of Industry 4.0 and artificial intelligence while still maintaining the ethical reasoning that's behind, who we are. Creativity, it's a big one. It's the one thing that all these articles I looked at and all the research that I've done on this has said is not something that can be easily replicated by any type of advanced technology. Though it can be tried, it's the one that is not easily replicated. Then we have influence, of course. A big one there is social influence, especially as we look online. Then we have critical thinking. I think that goes without kind of explanation, and how we are able as humans to have that front part of our brain to be able to think. Though there is a lot of efforts obviously being made by humans to allow artificial intelligence and other technology to be able to replicate that. And then finally, what this conference is all about, leadership. And I would actually argue that last one, though it is always separated out in a lot of these surveys and research, really encompasses all the other 7. So those are the 8. Again, I'm going to leave the rest of the time for us to share any of the ones that you see here, how you're incorporating them in your current position, job, or industry, at home. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Shelby, who's going to come around and ask for questions.
More of a comment. I'm Paul Nardone. I'm from Misericordia University, and as I'm looking at these 8 uniquely human skills, for me it speaks to. We've had so many discussions on our campus about the value of a liberal arts education, right? And we talk about these things like critical problem solving and communication. So it's interesting for me to hear you say about these uniquely human. I'm going to bring this back to our partners in the arts and sciences and make sure that they recognize that they are recognized in much of this, because this is what we say about the value of a liberal arts education at our institution. So I appreciate the list of 8. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I wish I could take credit for those 8, but it's really just kind of a meta-analysis of a variety of other researchers. So.
Hi, Stephanie. I'm Michelle Conway. Hello, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
I'm Michelle Conway with Alvernia University, and in addition to my full-time role, I'm also a PhD student. And my dissertation will be heavily rooted in these core competencies and soft skills and unique human skills. And what I'm looking to investigate is what unique human skills do our young professionals or those that have less than 5 years of experience in the field think they have? And what unique human skills do they actually have? So I don't know if you have any comments on that or if you've done any research in that area, but I'm really interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I have. I think depending on the age, and I had to ask specifically what age you're referring to, but the prefrontal lobe, and again, this is where I get very sciencey, so my PhD was in neuroleadership background as well, so their ability to have develop that part of their brain isn't not necessarily fully developed by the time that they think those. So a lot of it's based, I believe, and again, I'm sure there's some research, but it may be an interesting look for you on the social influence of others as to what that is. So that's a lot of what I've seen with a lot of, I worked this summer with high school students and have worked pretty extensively with a variety of different ages, from adult at the World Campus, and then of course the more traditional college students at the undergrad level. And I've seen a big change for that. So I'd be interesting to see for you the social side of that, and how much does that play with reality to what their expectations are. So, yeah, absolutely.
Stephanie, thank you. Jerry Efault, Wilkes University. Speaking of emotional intelligence, or EQ, emotional quotient,
Yeah.
what I've noticed is that a lot of students do not understand the opportunity, and speaking up, following what Michelle said, the social aspects, how to network with people, how to engage people. You see students on various campuses I go to don't ever make eye contact with you. It's not because of safety, it's just they don't do that. And one thing I've noticed is they do not understand the absolute requirement to network, to build your network. How are you addressing that, or are you thinking of that?
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of one of the reasons I went into this site. Is I was amazed. For me, I like to interact and network, so I was really surprised as to how, especially after the pandemic, where a lot of these ideas started to come to fruition, how much we're losing that. And just amazed by how well our younger generations are with technology, right? So it kind of goes on both ends. So a lot of the pieces that I do there, and again, the ultimate goal of this textbook is to have a portfolio developed by students that tie in all these competencies to how they're doing it and how they can make those improvements. Really looking at the intersection of how we can amplify technology while at the same time making sure we don't lose that human interaction, and why that's important. So I go into a lot of the science behind that, why it's important, how our brain needs that social sense, and that it can be mimicked online, but it has to be a combination. And I think that's what we're seeing in the workplace too. Be interesting to get industry perspective on this as well. But coming out of the pandemic especially, we're seeing a lot of call for flexibility, a need for kind of a hybrid. And I think that's where we're going to end up eventually, is that combination that works well for everyone, kind of a more customized approach. So yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm sure everyone else is doing fun things with these as well. I know that. Oh, it's back up. Good. I'll put it back here. This is actually what we're doing. Any fun things you're doing at your universities, colleges, academics? I think we have a couple minutes left here. Kind of share ways that you're incorporating this. Especially be interested in those that are doing it across disciplines. Because I think that's a lot of times, and I'm really impressed to see Wilkes is going that approach to the combination. And we do very well actually at our Penn State Wilkes-Barre. I'm going to give a shout out to our campus as well to kind of really integrate the best we can among departments. So I'd be interested in other ideas that people have on that and how it's working for them.
Hi, good morning. Jeff Krzyzak, Lackawanna College. We like to focus a lot on the leadership aspect of things. Some of the great programs we do, obviously we have our resident assistant program, but one of the new programs that we have instituted recently was a fellowship program where students could get a heavy discount on a tuition working within a department, whether it's within residence life, whether it's within our culinary department, so they can get those leadership abilities and still continue to work with the professionals so they can learn those skills so they'll be better equipped once they go into the working world.
Oh, again, excellent. Thank you for sharing. I think we're all doing a lot of this and we don't realize it and the power that it has.
So based on one of the things I was taught in a leadership class or program at my workplace was very similar to what we're speaking of. I worked in an engineering role, a very specific role, and didn't talk to a lot of people during the day. One of the things that they did as part of that leadership training was let me work with every department in the building. That includes maintenance, finance, manufacturing, planning, and you get that well-rounded idea. At very least, you understand the challenges each of those groups face. So when you're interacting with those groups, you understand what they need from you and also what you can do to help them. So I think leadership is understanding, or at least having some understanding of what those other people in your lives, your work life or your home life, what their challenges are and how you can help them with those things.
Absolutely. Kind of goes back to our keynote again. I like to look at leadership as not necessarily a specific role, but it's the way we interact with others. That's always been my relational perspective.
Hi, I'm Jim Pearson from Misericordia University, and just as a general overview, each of those characteristics, I think, obviously are well suited for what I tease students with. As an example, accounting is a contact sport, and COVID has been, very difficult for a lot of people. A lot of students are still just coming out of their shells and are not still engaging as we might have seen back in the years past. It's so important to be able to practice each of those through experiential learning opportunities and in project team-based information, getting away from the online classes and so forth. And even at graduate level, students have a real desire and appetite for online learning, which is great, but at the same time, there's got to be some connection, and they've got to work, even if they are going to be online, there's got to be some ways that they're synchronously engaging, or you're going to lose a lot of these. You cannot do your work in a silo.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be the fun way of looking at the creative ways we're going to combine the two. Absolutely.
Just one more thing to share, Stephanie, regarding what we are doing in the classroom at Alvernia University. For example, I teach an entrepreneurship class, and I'll use AI to have a business plan generated and show the students that in real time. And then, of course, I'll show them a business plan that was created by one of our entrepreneurs, and then they will have to identify the differences in quality between AI-generated content and, of course, the unique human skills that go into being an entrepreneur and working hands-on with the business model canvassing process. And I find their reactions to be outstanding. There's a clear difference, right?
Absolutely.
But if you don't see the before and after, it can be cloudy. So I just wanted to share that with you.
No, I think that's a great way to kind of get the interaction of students. We did something fun like that in our high school challenge this summer, where we did ChatGPT generated and then said, this is great as an overview, but what is missing, right?
Yeah.
So then, again, a fun scavenger hunt they did on kind of filling in those gaps as well. Absolutely. I think any ways we can do this in a fun and constructive way that doesn't feel threatening to students, where they can start to come out of those shells. And it's, even if they are not introverted, I'm finding, especially after the pandemic, even those that are extroverted, it's going to take some time. And I think we will find like that myriad of combination at some point for our students.
Jill Murray, Lackawanna College. I think critical thinking is one of the most important elements here. They're all incredibly important. And to me, critical thinking is really challenging assumptions. And so I think part of what we do, at the college is start with, why do you do it this way? And of course, inevitably, the answer used to be, because we've always done it that way. And so to get organizations, people, teams, interdisciplinary or department teams, asking the questions, why are we doing this? What is the value of this? And have it not be personal, to hold on to things, right? Because they either developed the process, or because they were the one who suggested it, or it worked forever, and now post-COVID, as many people have said, things have to change.
Yeah.
The next level up requires an awful lot of critical thinking, and I think to embed that in an organization is very difficult. Mm-hmm. As I'm looking at my teammates here, and Jeff and Chris, it's hard. And it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of effort, and it's a lot of frustration, and I think on many parts. So I think critical thinking is invaluable in organizations if you come at it from a standpoint of, let's challenge some assumptions that we have here, and not have this embedded and rooted sort of assumption that, just because we've always done it this way is the right way to do it.
Absolutely. I think it is and I like to see that you're doing that. A lot of times in organizations that I've worked prior to higher education, but even in higher education, we get so bogged down with time constraints, right? Responsibilities, that we let these types of skills go and don't focus on them as much. And I think again, I'm a little biased because this is what I study, but definitely very important. And they're all ages too. I just want to be mindful. I teach anywhere from high school all the way up through adults at World Campus. These are pretty universal, though the understanding may be different depending on the age.
Melissa Wassel, Luzerne County Community College. I come from a slightly different perspective because I oversee programs that work with underrepresented students and in a support service capacity. And we find ourselves implementing all of these almost daily with our students through coaching and case management skills. And it's amazing to see their transformation when they recognize what they have to bring, I guess, because I think each of these skills are something that is a strength that they have, but they don't recognize that they have, or the importance of what those skills bring to what they do in the classroom and what they do at home. So we do utilize these skills in a daily basis, but in a non-traditional capacity at the college.
Excellent. No, I really enjoy hearing that. I, again, would love to see a variety of different audiences. Our Teen Challenge we had this summer, we also had a focus in that area as well, and the transformation in a one-week challenge was just impressive to see the confidence build. So don't be afraid, even though we get a lot of pushback in the beginning. The first day I teach classes, I always start off and I say, the one thing I'm going to tell you today is where you're sitting now is not where you're going to sit tomorrow when you're back with me, and that it's all about challenging yourselves, and you may hate me the first couple months, but you'll come back to me in 5 years and you'll say, I'm glad you did that, right? So it's kind of that approach to recognize that it isn't necessarily going to be welcomed, a lot of these changes for students, but it is very, very necessary to get them to develop that confidence level. And I'm going to get a shout out to TechBridge as well, because we're working on high school entrepreneurial competencies, and a lot of these are them. And are always looking for feedback from any of you here as to your working with these at all levels, as we really feel like it's a key importance for the Northeast region here to retain and to really build those skills for our future workforce. So with that, I think I'm probably out of time.
Yes, everyone give Dr. Stephanie Gresh a round of applause. Thank you all for your participation.